Hello, everyone. This is Maurice with Maurice Money Matters. Coming to you this time talking about key number five. Key number five is the 529 plan. This 529 plan is a plan to further educate your kids and have money set aside for them once they start school. If your kids are in a private school, you can use this money that's set aside for their private tuition. You can also use it once they go to college or anything that has to do with their education. If your kids decide not to go to college and you have that money set aside, you can use that money for other things, but then you will be taxed and there will be a penalty charge with that. So this is primarily used to further the kids' education. If the kids use that money to go to school and get further education, that money is not taxed. This is a plan that is well worth it because you basically use the monies that it takes for them to go to school tax-free. This plan is similar to a 401k plan, but it differs in that it has to be used for the kids' education. This plan is set aside by the government to help people with kids when they go into school.
So when you use a 529 plan, as Maurice has stated, it is a state-funded plan, very similar, as previously mentioned, to a 401k, also a 403b for that fact. However, you can utilize this from grades K through college and beyond if you're seeking a doctorate or whatever, because it is going towards your educational fund. So most of us, unfortunately, are not able to start that 529 plan when we initially have children to set aside for their education. Whenever, as we forestated, from key 1 until this key, number 5, there is a flow or a way to maneuver your funding and your finances to get to this point. We've demonstrated through our talks about how you pay off your smallest bill to your debt-free. We've also talked about saving for your rainy day fund, your emergency fund. We've talked about several things. So up until this point now, you need to be able to save for your child's education, but not until you have become financially stable. Most people live from check to check. So that's unfortunate, but that unfortunately is the American way. So what we're trying to do is break that trend, break that cycle to enable us to have a carefree retirement in our golden years. So what we are trying to teach and demonstrate through our lives is to prioritize. So now once you have saved your rainy day fund, your emergency fund, you've paid off all of your smaller debts, and the largest debt that we normally carry in life is the mortgage for your home. That generally is the largest debt we have. Some people have other things on the side. Most people don't, in reference to larger bills. So once we've gotten to this point, you're able to now set aside that 529 plan. Now, as Maurice has stated, you cannot take that money from that plan without being taxed if it is not being utilized for your child's education. Now, even if you have initiated that 529 plan, don't stop there. A lot of people make the mistake of trying to pay debts or incur loans throughout their educational process. That is going to put you further in arrears and bring more debt to your life. We're trying to eliminate debt. So rather than doing that, once you've initiated that 529 plan, you need to continue trying to find avenues and ways of financing your education as the individual or your child's education. You need to persuade or try to encourage the child to have a history or be demonstrative of getting good grades, from elementary throughout middle school, throughout high school, on into their college years. By the time you reach your college years, of course, you want to do the best that you can. I know burnout happens, but nonetheless, you still want to do the best that you can. Not only is that child demonstrating that they can make the grade, but they are also getting good study habits. They are also learning to be dependable, reliable, accountable for their own actions. Now, in the process of time, you need to also apply for grants and scholarships. Grants are grants are funding that you don't have to pay back. You're qualified for whatever stipulations that they require. But don't just stop at 1 grant or 2 grant or 5 grants or 10 grants. Apply for as many grants as possible. Because if this one you're not qualified for, then you can qualify for another grant, which the more, even if it's $50, $100, $500, it is all going towards your education. So if you get 1,000 applications filled out for a grant and maybe 75 fall out, well, they're all for different amounts of money, so that is going to go and contribute to your educational fund. And you do that yearly or whenever they say that you're qualified to do so. In that regard, you're also going to want to apply for scholarships, which with scholarships is the same. You don't have to pay the scholarships back, which this will eliminate the process of having to apply for a loan. If you do have to apply for a loan, it's not going to have to be for $250,000 or $100,000. It may be as little as $15,000, which is a lot better than applying for a $250,000 loan, which with interest is going to be astronomical fee. So with that being said, another point that we want to demonstrate, we by no means encourage anyone or promote you starting your child's saving plan, 529 or any other plan, prior to you becoming financially free. And the reason being, it's not going to benefit you as the parent. It's not going to benefit that child either, because a lot of times when people start saving for their child's educational fund before they're financially free, they start dipping into the pot, which causes you to be taxed. So in my verbiage, I say don't put the cart before the horse. So it's done all backwards if you do that. And there's a lot of people who feel like, well, I've got to save for my child's educational fund, and that's not going to benefit you because you're still going to be overwhelmed in debt. When it's time to retire, lots of times people can't afford to retire because they didn't spend their money wisely or save their money wisely. And so with that being said, you need to make sure your debts are taken care of. You need to make sure you've got enough money to live in your retirement or your golden years, because if you see the infomercials on television, you have the old people and they say, well, do I want to pay my light bill? Do I want to pay my gas bill? Do I want to get my medication? And you don't want to have to live like that. You want to be able to enjoy your life, worry-free, travel when you want, be able to get the necessities of life, groceries, pay your utilities. Those are things that we're always going to have. So you're going to have month-to-month debt. You're going to have insurance bills. And when I say insurance, I'm speaking of car insurance, homeowners insurance, because we personally, after you retire, you should be able to pay for your final arrangements out of pocket. I don't know if Maurice is going to talk about that in this segment or another, but once you get retired, you should not have to continue to pay life insurance. You should be able to bury yourself, so that worry won't have to fall on your family for paying debts when you have to take out loans or going to the state to bury somebody or anything like that. But that's another topic. So just make sure that your debts are taken care of, and then you could start saving for your child's, and then everybody can live a carefree, happy life.
And that is correct. What she told you is some very good information about how to plan for your kids' future. You know, when our kids was about to go to college and prior to it, you know, my daughter was an athlete And I told her, I said, if you get a full ride scholarship somewhere, you can go anywhere you want to. I said, but if mom and dad's got to help pay for it, you need to go to an in-state college, which an in-state college is 50% cheaper than going to an out-of-state college.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that. And you need to apply for grants. And I took a lot of heat from relatives saying, well, you need to send your children out so they can get the experience of having their own place and staying in a dorm and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't concerned with the experience of having your own place at a dorm. I wanted them to get the education. And I wanted to get it the cheapest way possible, an education that would benefit them in the long run. If you're paying 50% from going to in-state college versus going to out-state, and the person lives at home and goes to school at campus, then you're saving a whole lot of money just by that, just by going in-state and that person staying at home going to college. The main thing is to get the education. That's what I was concerned with. This program and these steps, it's not easy. It takes discipline. Anything that's worth anything is going to take discipline. It doesn't feel good not being able to do the things you want when you want to, but if you will sacrifice early on, then later on, you can do anything you want to. But it's always a give and a take. And this is like giving to make sure that things are prepared for you and your future and your kids. You want to leave a legacy for yourself, a legacy for your kids, and a legacy for your grandkids. The Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. That's his grandkids and the future people coming later on down the line.
And Maurice, also, the Bible goes on, since you brought scripture in, to say that train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he gets old, he won't depart. Not only are you teaching him moral values or your daughter moral values, you are living as an example to your children. Oftentimes we say, I'm the parent, you're the kid, but the children are products of their environment. So if you're living from hand to mouth and going from paycheck to paycheck, the odds are that child will mimic your life, maybe not intentionally, but that's all that child was ever shown. Mm-hmm. So because that is what was modeled to that child will become that product of that environment, whether it's in morality, whether it's in promiscuity, whether it's in finances, managing well or not managing well. That child becomes a product of their environment. So we have to be an example of the things that we're doing, and we have to be examples of the things that we are saying and or teaching.
That's correct. And what my wife said is very correct. A child learns a lot more from what they see you do than what they hear you say. Now, you can say, do this, do that, until you're blue in the face, but they really going to watch what you do and watch how you pattern yourself and how you conduct yourself with your money and with life. Those are the things that really takes to heart. And if you set that example, then your kids will follow 9 times out of 10 in that example. So this is good information. Take this information and it would be a help to you. Once again, this is Maurice with Maurice Money Matter.